Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of 30 Albums for 30 Years, 1964 through 1994, where we take a look and a listen to the most impactful albums during those years. We try to do it chronologically, so that's 30 albums for each one of those years, so 900 albums total. Let's see how we do. I am your host, Jay Sweet. In today's episode, we will be checking out Nina Simone in concert, released on Philips Records, recorded at Carnegie Hall during performances on March 21st, April 1st, and April 6th of 1964, and it was released sometimes in 1964. There's no specific date given. Let's get into it. Nina Simone in concert. All right, let's learn a little bit about Nina Simone, who was born to the name Eunice Kathleen Wayman. Nina Simone is known as the High Priestess of Soul. She was an inspirational singer, pianist, songwriter, and political activist whose music blended gospel, jazz, classical, blues, folk, and R&B. Simone is one of the purest and most honest American recording artists to emerge in the second half of the 20th century. Nina Simone was born to a poor family in Tyrone, North Carolina. Her father was a barber, dry cleaner, and entertainer. Her mother was a Methodist preacher. By the age of 4, she was playing piano, and by 12, she was giving classical concerts. Her talents were so evident that a community fund was set up for her to continue with more advanced studies and to attend the Allen High School for Girls in Asheville, North Carolina. In 1950, she went to the Juilliard School for a summer to study with legendary German pianist Carl Friedberg. Her Juilliard studies were meant to prepare her for an audition at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. So her family relocates to Philadelphia to support her dreams, but to her surprise, she was denied admission. Simone has often stated that it was because of prejudice. That's why she did not get in. And instead, she took lessons privately with Vladimir Sokolov, a professor at Curtis. All right, so Nina Simone aspired to be a classical pianist, but there didn't seem to be a path for a young African-American girl at that time. So she began performing blues and jazz at a club in Atlantic City. It was then that she started to sing secular music and adopt the name Nina Simone to hide the fact that she was performing devil's music from her mother. In 1958, she was offered a session to record the George Gershwin tune I Loves You Porgy from his impactful folk opera Porgy and Bess. The song became her only top 20 hit in the US and earned her a recording contract with Bethlehem Records. Now, sadly, she sold her rights to her music at the time for $3,000 and lost out on over $1 million in future earnings. In 1959, she signed with Colpix Records, Colpix, and began recording and touring regularly. She also married Andrew Stroud, a police detective who would become her manager, a father to her daughter, and sadly, her abuser, which he has admitted to. All right, so let's talk about Nina Simone in 1964 and the album Nina Simone in Concert. In 1964, Simone, like many, was aware of the racial tensions that were growing in America. And her songs now began to draw from the African-American experience and became more extreme and more political. This is exemplified by her original piece, Mississippi Goddam, which we'll talk about as we listen to this album. Her activism continued as she became a strong supporter of Malcolm X and the Black nationalism movement, which often called for the use of force to inspire change, which was a divide from the nonviolent teachings of Martin Luther King. It had been suggested by Simone that her outspokenness and radical views hurt her mainstream success. But despite being left off of the pop charts, Simone continued to present politically fueled music. One of Simone's most celebrated works was her 1964 release, Nina Simone in Concert, which included highlights from 3 Carnegie Hall performances made during the year. It was the first showcase of Simone's to present more politically fueled protest music. Joining Simone is her backing band of Rudy Stevenson on guitar, Liesl Atkins on bass, and Bobby Hamilton on drums. The album was more of a critical success than a commercial one, and it never reached higher than 102 on the Billboard charts. Alright, so let's talk about what happens to Nina Simone after the release of this album. By the mid-1970s, Nina Simone's life had become more complex. She struggled with her marriage and the IRS, who was after her for unpaid taxes. So she decides to move to Barbados for some time to avoid these struggles. While there, she has an ongoing affair with their prime minister, Errol Barrow. She then moves for some time to Liberia. During this time, her relationship with her daughter Lisa had become heavily strained, and according to Lisa, Simone was physically and mentally abusive. So Lisa returns to the U.S. to be with her father. In the 1980s, Nina Simone moves around from Liberia, Barbados, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and eventually Amsterdam, and continues to record and perform. Still, her mental state has worsened, and she was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Simone continued to struggle later in life. In the 1990s, she moved to England and then France, and suffered from breast cancer, which took her life in 2003 at the age of 70. Nina Simone's legacy and talents have been passed on through her daughter, Lisa Celeste Stroud, who has recorded as a singer with Liquid Soul and has been showcased on several Broadway productions. All right, let's check it out. Let's drop the needle on side 1, track 1, which is I Loves You, Porgy, which is from George Gershwin's 1935 opera Porgy and Bess, based on DuBose Hayward's 1925 novel Porgy and Dorothy Hayward's screenplay by the same name. Despite Gershwin's success, the composer struggled to get the opera produced because it dealt with the struggles of African American characters living in the slums of Charleston. Now, Gershwin was a successful New York Jewish composer. Despite being performed on Broadway, the show was considered a commercial failure for Gershwin, but it did produce one of his biggest hits, Summertime. In the 1970s, the show found a second life and has continued to become a more significant part of American repertoire. The lyrics for the song were provided by George's brother Ira Gershwin, who helped with many of his songs. The song comes at a moment when Porgy promises Bess to protect her from her abusive boyfriend named Crown. Simone first recorded the song in 1958, and it was released on her 1959 debut album, Little Girl Blue, on Bethlehem Records. Her live interpretation is a fantastic showcase of Simone's gifts as an interpreter of standard material, as both a singer and a pianist. Track number 2 is Plain Gold Ring, which was written by Earl Burroughs, aka Jack Hammer, who also wrote the Jerry Lee Lewis hit Great Balls of Fire. The tune begins with a repetitive bass line and some scat vocalizations by Simone. The song discusses having an affair with a married man. The music builds throughout, and it is dark, serious, and passionate. The song was also featured on her debut album, Little Girl Blue. Track number 3 is Pirate Jenny, written by Kurt Weill for the 3 Penny Opera. For the lyrics, a lonely hotel maid named Jenny imagines herself as a pirate who burns the city to the ground and kills those who have wronged her before she sails away. Including this Broadway-style number may be a statement against oppression. Simone's energy, anger, and theatrical nature come through heavily in this tune. The crowd encourages Simone with a resounding ovation at the conclusion. Sail away with Pirate Jenny. Track number 4, the final track of side number 1, is Old Jim Crow, which was a protest song written by Nina Simone speaking out against the racist Jim Crow laws. Now, the Jim Crow laws were actually named after a minstrel song, after a song from 1828 called Jump Jim Crow. The song was extremely popular and was sung in blackface by Daddy Rice, a famous minstrel performer. The music is played with an uplifting, spirited swing, which is strange given the darkness of the lyrics. It's an excellent protest song. Check it out, Old Jim Crow. Okay, so it's that time to flip the record and drop the needle on side number 2, track number 1. And the song is Don't Smoke in Bed, which is some pretty sound advice, I would say. Don't Smoke in Bed is a slow ballad composed by Willard Robinson with the help of Peggy Lee and Dave Babor from 1948. Simone first recorded the song on the album Little Girl Blue. This song features Simone alone. Her voice is filled with emotion, and her piano playing is dark and somewhat modernistic. The lyrics are a sad reflection of divorce, and the leaving lover offers some final advice to her ex-love in the form of a letter in which she tells him not to smoke in bed to cope with her departure. The song has been covered by many artists like K.D. Lang, Holly Cole, and Sinead O'Connor, but Simone's version remains the most well-known and beloved. Track number 2 of side number 2 is the song Go Limp, which is Simone's adaptation of a tune written by Alex Comfort to the folk ballad Sweet Betsy from Pike. The piece offers many sexual innuendos and showcases Simone's ability to joke and interact with her audience. At one point, she forgets a verse and jokes with the audience about it. The lyrics tell the story of a mother warning her daughter not to get too involved with civil rights activism, as it will only destroy her love life. It nearly destroyed Simone's life several times, but she never gave up on fighting against social injustices. The final track is Mississippi Goddam, which is often cited as one of the most important protest songs of the 20th century. The tune was first released on this record. Simone wrote the song in response to the 16th Street Baptist Church bombings in Alabama, which left 4 young African-American girls dead, and the 1963 murder of civil rights activist Medgar Evers in Mississippi. Members of the KKK were responsible for both horrific events. Despite the seriousness of the lyrics, Simone presents the song as an up-tempo show tune. Mississippi Goddam became an anthem during the civil rights movement. Simone would play the song during the 1965 Selma to Montgomery March. Several southern states banned the song, and in the lyrics, Simone talks about her desire for equality and warns that the country is full of lies. She also contradicts Martin Luther King's teachings that change takes time and warns against the tragedies that continue to come by doing it slow. Everyone needs to know this song and the works of Miss Simone. Mississippi Goddam. All right, my friends, we did it. We made it to the end of the album. We're certainly more informed, and I'd say we're certainly better for it. So let's lift the needle and put the record away for another day. And in conclusion, Nina Simone in concert is celebrated as one of the essential albums of protest music. It also gives a glimpse into Simone's style of performance and the emotional power of her lyrics, voice, and piano playing. In 2000, Simone was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and in 2017, she was awarded a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, despite having never won an actual Grammy. In 2018, Nina Simone was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. As always, I want to thank you for checking out the podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to learn more about past or future shows, go to 30albumsfor30years.com. We're also on social media. In addition, these podcasts are broadcast as well on YouTube, although it's a version that does not include the music, but it is a way to share the content. Also, I have a book available, A History of American Music, 1750 through 1950, an origin story, and you can get that through Kendall Hunt Publishers. Together, let's keep this music alive, and I hope you join me for our next episode. Have a wonderful day.